Okay, so if you blink last week, you really might have missed history being made. I mean, it wasn't just a big week for AI.
No, not at all.
It felt like the week. Major players, Google, Anthropic, ByteDance, OpenAI, Mistral, Microsoft, Tesla, NVIDIA, every single one dropped something big.
Right. Stuff that on its own would normally dominate headlines for days.
Exactly. And altogether, it wasn't just headlines. It felt like they redrew the entire map of AI in just a few days.
But
Super intense.
it was genuinely unprecedented. We saw releases hitting, well, pretty much every corner of the field. Cinematic video creation, code auditing that ran for hours.
And in hours, wasn't it?
Yeah, 7 hours straight. Then
Yeah.
groundbreaking open source models, robots folding laundry. I mean, really,
Yeah.
the speed and just the sheer breadth of it, honestly, it was kind of astonishing.
Which is exactly why we wanted to do this deep dive. We're going to unpack this whirlwind week. We've got a stack of detailed source material here. Think of them like field notes.
Yeah, engineers' field notes, basically. Insights gathered after maybe a few too many espressos, trying to make sense of it all.
Right. So our mission today is to walk through this avalanche step by step. We'll pull out the really important nuggets,
Find the surprising bits, connect the dots between things that might seem separate, and, yeah, uncover those common threads running through it all so you can get a handle on it without feeling totally buried.
Okay, let's dive in. Where should we start? Google I/O felt like the big consumer splash,
So
right?
definitely. They came out really confident, very focused on the consumer experience. Their whole message was like multimodal creation video, audio, text. It should just feel cinematic, intuitive.
And physics aware, they said.
Physics aware, yeah. Like right out of the box. No lab goggles, no reading footnotes. Just, prompt it, make something cool.
And the flagship for that was Flow.
Flow, exactly. Picture this. One timeline. It pulls together their motion engine, VideoFX3, their image generator, Imagen 4, and Gemini, their language model, acting as the planner.
So you just give it a prompt. Like that example, a neon-lit rooftop chase at dawn.
Precisely. And Flow tries to generate the whole scene, not just pieces, the whole thing.
And the detail level they showed off.
Mhm.
It seemed pretty wild.
Oh, yeah. They were talking about shadows matching the sunrise angle, lip sync looking natural, even the soundtrack building tension based on the action.
Wait, the soundtrack too? Dynamically.
That's what they showed. It felt less like you're prompting separate tools and more like you're, I don't know, directing a mini movie with just words.
That's the big shift, isn't it? For creators, it means no more clunky handoffs between different apps.
Zero brittle file handoffs, as the notes put it. It's all baked in. It's AI applied directly to storytelling. And they use the phrase, at YouTube speed.
YouTube speed, I like that. Implies really fast iteration.
Exactly. But Google didn't just stop with video. There was prompt DJ, too.
Right, where the person on stage just spoke musical ideas.
Yeah, like ukulele, post-punk chord stabs, dubstep wobble, and boom, separate audio tracks generated right there, turning ideas into a mix.
That's cool. And Stitch for app prototypes.
Yep. Plain English instructions turning into working mobile prototypes. You could even export to Figma or get React code out of it.
Okay, and Project Mariner. That sounded intriguing, like a browser agent.
Essentially, yeah. A browser-native agent. It can log into sites for you, fill forms, pay bills. It can even watch you click around on a site and then repeat that workflow later.
Whoa. So like a super-powered macro recorder that actually understands a web page.
Kinda, yeah. Turning complicated online stuff into simple automations.
And they hinted at hardware too, Android XR headsets.
They did. Driving head-worn displays. Think virtual desktops inside your goggles. Or maybe thin glasses giving you real-time subtitles for the world around you.
Real-world subtitles. Interesting.
And here's a detail from the notes that really jumped out at me. Gemini actually watching and learning from where you look through those glasses.
Your gaze becomes training data.
Exactly. Where you look labels the video footage automatically. Today, maybe that helps with navigation prompts, but the long game, using that attention data to teach robots, like how you fold a towel, just by watching you do it through the glasses.
Okay, so it connects back to robotics later. It's not just flashy demos. It's AI becoming this fundamental layer.
Right. The notes summed it up perfectly for this section.
Yeah.
This is the moment. Consumer UX finally caught the research curve.
Great line. Okay, so while Google went big on consumers, Anthropic took a different tack, very developer-focused, right, with Claude 4.
Squarely ambit engineers, yeah. They launched Claude 4, Opus, Sonnet, and a private Max version.
And Opus made immediate noise, grabbing the top spot on SWE-Bench. Can you remind us what SWE-Bench is again? It's tough.
Oh, it's brutal. It uses real software bugs pulled from actual GitHub issues. The model has to understand the problem, navigate code that might span multiple files, figure out dependencies, and then write a working fix.
And not just patching one line in one file.
Yeah, no way. Older models often just choked after looking at one file. But Opus, it was shown fixing complex bugs across several files, documenting its changes, and moving on. The really stunning demo the notes mentioned was Opus auditing a live code repository for nearly 7 hours.
7 hours.
Without losing state, without forgetting what it was doing, which files it had seen, the context, just kept going.
That sounds like an incredibly focused junior dev who never checks their phone.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. And Sonnet is kind of the lighter, faster version, good for everyday coding tasks. The notes called it the weekday coder compared to Opus, the weekend marathoner for those huge projects.
Weekday coder, weekend marathoner. Got it. They added new features too.
Big ones for developers.
Yeah.
A built-in code sandbox to run code safely. A files API to handle project structures. A multi-call connector for orchestrating API calls. And prompt caching. That's a big cost saver.
Right. Cuts down on token usage. That's always welcome.
Hugely. And integration is key. So they launched plugins for VS Code and JetBrains IDEs, plus a GitHub action. It lets you automate code reviews, even have Claude suggest fixes right in your workflow.
Makes sense. Pricing.
Opus is $15 per $1 million input tokens, $75 per $1 million output. Sonnet is way cheaper, $3 input, $15 output. And importantly, they have a free tier for Sonnet.
Smart move for getting developers on board.
Definitely drives that grassroots adoption. The notes also mention security stuff, ASL3 certification, which is a standard for AI security, and a big drop, like 65%, in behavioral drift. So it's more reliable.
Less likely to go off the rails.
Exactly. And there's an interesting little detail about Opus having real taste when editing writing, like a stern editor who values clarity over ego.
I like that. So the big takeaway quote from the notes on Anthropic.
It was powerful. This technology can now babysit a code base all night and hand you a green build at dawn.
Wow. That's the dream for a lot of engineering teams. Okay, shifting gears. Just before Claude 4 dropped, ByteDance TikTok's parent company released something called Bagel.
Bagel, yeah. Breakfast-friendly name, but seriously impressive tech underneath. They called it a unified multimodal model.
Unified multimodal, meaning?
Its core is this mixture of experts setup, multi specifically. It means it only activates the relevant parts of its brain, basically. 7 billion active parameters out of 14 billion total.
But the unified part, it handles different types of data.
Yes, with one decoder. That's the key innovation. One engine processing and generating words, pixels for images, and motion for video. It uses specialized visual encoders too, one for textures, another for concepts.
Okay, so what can it actually do?
Some pretty remarkable stuff. Feed it a picture of Michelangelo's David. It doesn't just describe it, it gives you historical context. Ask for fantasy potion bottles. It renders photorealistic glass with correct light refraction.
Wow.
Show it parkour footage, and it could actually predict the next likely camera angle.
Predict camera angles? How?
By learning patterns from the motion, I guess. It understands the visual language of filming action, and they added tags to its output.
Tags? What do they do?
They basically show its thinking process, its chain of thought, how it got to the answer. And the note said this helped cut down random weird artifacts in the output by almost half.
That's useful. Benchmarks look good.
Yeah, strong scores. 85 on MBZUAI, 73 on MetaVista, big jump on MME Redo. And here's the kicker. They put a 7 billion parameter version on GitHub. Open license.
Open license. How much power do you need to run it?
Only 8 GB of VRAM. That's doable on a decent consumer graphics card. Makes it surprisingly accessible for researchers, developers. Anyone, really.
That is accessible for multimodal power like that. So the big takeaway on Bagel.
The note said ByteDance basically proved that text, image, and video can share one brain without losing precision.
Which is huge for TikTok, obviously, but
maybe bigger for anyone wanting local multimodal power, as the notes put it. It sort of democratizes that capability.
Right. Speaking of open and accessible, let's talk Mistral, Paris's answer, with DevStral. Aimed at coders, too.
Specifically positioned as a cutting-edge coder for the open source community. And their training method was pretty cool.
How so?
Instead of just feeding it labeled code, they trained it in loops. Give it a failing software test. Task. Find the bug. Patch the code. Rerun the test. Repeat until it's green.
So it learns like a developer actually debugs.
Kinda, yeah. Simulates that workflow. And it worked. It hit a 46.8 verified score on SWE-Bench.
How does that compare?
It smashed previous open models by 6 points, and it beat a proprietary GPT-4 Lite model by 20 points on that benchmark. That's a massive leap for open source on hard coding tasks.
Wow. Accessible too.
Very. Quantized builds, the smaller, efficient ones, can run on a single RTX 4090 or even an M-series Mac with 32 gigs of RAM. Plus, their API endpoint is cheap, 10 cents per million input, 30 cents per million output, and it's Apache 2.0 licensed.
Meaning?
No vendor lock-in. Companies, individuals, they can use it freely.
And they have plugins for local use, for secure environments.
Exactly. VS Code plugins that let air-gapped Teams ones cut off from the internet for security use DevStral to patch code locally. No sensitive code leaves their network.
That feels important, especially with Europe's focus on digital sovereignty.
Right. The notes frame DevStral as a key step one towards that. And the practical benefit: saving human weekends. Letting open source maintainers patch 40 files deep without losing variable scope, that's the real value.
Saving human weekends. Love it. Okay, sticking with open developer tools, Microsoft did something interesting too. They open sourced the old Copilot.
The original 2021 GitHub Copilot extension, yeah, under an MIT license.
Why is that significant?
Well, it means years of UI development, all that polish on the interface everyone's used to. It's now free for anyone to use and modify.
So you could take that familiar Copilot interface
And swap in a different backend model. Use OpenAI, use DevStral, use Claude, whatever you want, but keep the UI you like.
Ah, interesting. And privacy implications.
Big ones. If you don't like the telemetry, the data collection, you can just strip it out. The notes had a great line. Privacy teams just cheered.
Huh, makes sense. Microsoft also showed something called Magentic UI, similar to Google's Mariner.
Yeah, another agent automating browser tasks. But Magentic UI is built on Docker, designed for local on-premises deployment, which is often what big enterprise IT departments want for security and control.
So, respecting different security needs, it feels like these agents, these loops that can follow steps, are popping up everywhere.
Definitely a recurring theme, that ability to maintain state and complete complex workflows.
Okay, let's turn to OpenAI. They had stuff going on too, even if one was a bit quieter. CodeX, behind the ChatGPT Pro paywall.
Right. Not a big public launch, but the capabilities shown were definitely not small stakes. It's basically a full workspace for authenticated repos.
Meaning you connect your GitHub.
Exactly. Link your repo, pick a branch, then give it high-level prompts. Things like add OAuth voice input or migrate everything to TypeScript.
And it doesn't just spit out code.
No, it spins up parallel jobs. Each job forks a temporary branch, updates the code, updates the documentation across potentially loads of files, then presents it as a diff, like a draft pull request.
You could inspect the process.
Yeah, you can peek at the virtual machine it used, inject secrets if needed, install dependencies, then you accept or reject the changes, and you can run multiple prompts at once. So Big Refactor doesn't block adding a small feature.
Okay, that sounds powerful. What's the cost?
$200 a month. Seems steep, maybe. But early testers were saying it was cheaper than hiring a junior contractor for certain jobs, and shockingly precise. The notes said you could watch 5 features appear overnight.
5 features overnight. So AI merging right into the daily GitHub workflow.
Yeah, that's the significance, yeah. And speaking of workflows, OpenAI also made a big strategic play, reportedly trying to buy WinSurf.
Formerly Codem, for $3 billion.
That's the report. WinSurf is another one of those AI tools that lives inside your IDE, like VS Code, offers real-time code completion suggestions, and it can already route requests to different models like GPT-4o or Claude.
So the strategy for OpenAI would be
Buying the interface, owning where developers are already working, brings that user loyalty under their roof. Ties right into their huge revenue goals, $11 billion by 2026, the notes mentioned. Owning enterprise tool chains is key for that.
Makes sense. Control the on-ramp.
If the deal happens, the prediction is they'll merge CodeX and WinSurf, create this seamless docstring to pull request highway for pro users, from writing a comment to merging code, all in one flow.
The lesson being?
Owning distribution, owning the interface, often beats chasing margins on just the AI model itself. The war is about who owns the on-ramp to daily workflows.
Fascinating strategic angle. Okay, let's shift from software to the physical world. Robotics saw big news too, especially Tesla with Optimus Gen 2.
Yeah, the demo footage was pretty compelling. Showed the robot walking, picking up and folding a towel quite dexterously, actually sorting socks, wiping a counter, even nodding in response to feedback.
And the key thing was one network doing all that,
Right.
trained on human demos.
One neural network controlled all those different tasks, yeah. trained mostly by watching first-person views of humans doing the chores.
And Musk made some bold claims about production. 5,000 units this year.
That's the target, with maybe limited sales late 2025. Now, the notice suggested the real magic, the trick, isn't just the robot hardware, it's the data loop.
The data loop.
How it learns, by watching tasks through smart glasses worn by humans. Connects right back to that Google XR thing we talked about.
So the human's gaze automatically labels the training video.
Exactly. Zero extra annotation effort needed. The long-term vision is that domestic skills, folding laundry, wiping counters, become like just another App Store download for your robot.
Of course, there's always skepticism with robot demos. Perfect lighting, maybe someone off camera.
True, the notes acknowledge that. But they argued even a staged fold matters, because it shows how fast that gap between robot bodies and AI brains is closing. This tech is reaching into kitchens and laundromats now, conceptually at least.
Right. And NVIDIA had a different take on robot training, Dream-Gen.
Yeah, NVIDIA's approach is kind of, why bother simulating perfect physics, which is incredibly hard, when you can just generate perfect training data synthetically?
Generate the data. How does that work?
It's a four-stage pipeline. Starts with a video model tuned to the robot's joints. Then it basically hallucinates short video clips of the robot doing skills, familiar ones, totally new ones, in diverse, photorealistic virtual rooms.
Hallucinates clips, okay.
Then a diffusion step turns those clips into precise motion trajectories. And finally, a policy network uses those trajectories to control the real robot hardware.
And the results.
Pretty stunning. They use only 50 synthetic demos per task videos generated entirely by Dream-Gen. With just that, they taught a robot arm to do things like fold t-shirts, hammer nail, stack blocks in 10 completely new, real-world environments it had never seen.
With no extra fine-tuning on the real robot.
No extra fine-tuning needed once it learned from the synthetic data.
That efficiency is nuts.
Yeah, the note said, generating data beats hiring armies of teleoperators to train robots manually. They taught the arm 22 new skills in 1 week this way.
So the takeaway there is?
This tech no longer waits for perfect simulators. It manufactures its own reality, then transfers skill into yours.
Yep.
A fundamental shift.
Manufactures its own reality.
Wow. Okay, and there was another robot, 112VA, focused on judgment.
Right, from a different lab.
Huh.
This one's about being a unified vision-language-action model. It sees, understands language, acts, and crucially, it toggles between thinking and moving.
So it can plan, like with a recipe.
Exactly. Give it a recipe, it plans the steps, identifies the pan, the oil bottle, pours the oil, checks the temperature. It can even ask questions like, should I add garlic now?
But the really impressive part was error recovery.
That was the highlight. If it drops the spatula while cooking, it sees the mistake, figures out how to pick it up, and just resumes cooking.
Yeah.
No human intervention needed.
How well did it work?
92% success on 50 brand new tasks, and importantly, 85% success rate at recovering when errors did happen. And the secret sauce, more synthetic data.
Mostly, yeah.
Yep.
The huge data set, 100,000 examples, mostly synthetic, using Dream-Gen style generation plus some human demos. When your synthetic training is that broad and realistic, the line between training and reality gets really blurry.
It's that same pattern again, synthetic breadth, grounded detail.
Right. Robots that used to freeze if they spilled flour can now just sweep the counter and carry on.
And this loops back to the XR glasses again, doesn't it?
Perfectly. Google's glasses turning gaze into labels, responding to nods, shakes. The glasses are the teacher, Optimus is the student, Dream-Gen is the data forge. Labeling used to be this massive bottleneck.
But now just interacting normally becomes training data.
Waving your finger, saying a word, nodding at all becomes training gold. Millions of labeled frames generated almost effortlessly. Everyday workers become robot professors without even trying. The notes called it frictionless supervision, just baked into the stack.
Frictionless supervision. Cool concept. Okay, so beyond the labs and dev tools, AI is weaving into everything else too. Culture, commerce.
Absolutely. We saw tools like Hicksfield's video platform, letting marketers instantly match camera moves to storyboards.
And that Fortnite thing. AI Darth Vader.
Sounding just like James Earl Jones.
Yeah.
But then players figured out prompt injection.
Right, making Vader say wild stuff, creative profanity.
Exactly. Gave the moderators a long night, apparently. A perfect example of generative AI hitting the real world with unpredictable results.
We also saw Future House talking about an automated discovery loop.
Yeah, chaining AI agents, hypothesis, experiment, analysis, new hypothesis, all automated. Definitely caused a stir, especially in fields like pharma.
And tools like LavArt, letting marketers just chat to create printable posters.
Yeah, no design skills needed. You can just smell this technology everywhere now, the note said. Instant assets, instant voices, instant layouts.
But that speed is a double-edged sword.
Totally. Fast output enables fast mischief, as the notes put it. But that same speed also turbocharges experimentation. The same engine making a dodgy meme can draft a serious conference poster before your latte cools.
Meanwhile, policymakers are trying to catch up. That House vote in the U.S. H.R. 1.
Significant move. A narrow vote, 215-214, passed a provision for a 10-year pause on state-level AI rules.
Why? What's the argument?
Supporters want a single national framework. Avoid a confusing patchwork of state laws. Critics say it's a free pass for megacore, stopping stronger local protections. And the Senate outcome is still up in the air.
But it matters for developers.
Hugely. Compliance depends on where the rules are. This moratorium could simplify things, just follow federal rules or lack thereof. But it might also stall local safeguards people want. As the note said, policy rarely tops a hype reel, but governance decides where this technology lands first. Maybe keep an eye on C-SPAN.
Good point. Okay, looking beyond the U.S., Abu Dhabi's MBZUAI, the AI university.
Yeah, the Mohammed bin Zayed University of Artificial Intelligence, positioning itself as the Gulf's answer to Stanford.
How are they doing that?
Led by Eric Singh, they're pulling in global talent with scholarships, tax-free salaries, building top-notch labs, partnering with NVIDIA for H100 clusters, pushing AI into schools. There's even talk of a US-UAE chip deal.
But there are questions, concerns.
Sure, the notes mention skepticism, like limitations on free speech in the UAE.
So it's an experiment to watch.
Definitely. And as the notes put it, petaflops don't care about politics. The real test is their research output. If they hit a major benchmark, we'll be talking about them alongside MIT and Stanford.
Got it. And finally, a really concrete public service example, Baltimore's 911 system.
Yeah, during that big Artscape festival, they used AI for smarter call routing. It used geofencing to spot festival calls, offered instant translation Spanish, French, Arabic.
So dispatchers could handle things better.
Instantly flagged festival calls, triaged them so routine emergencies elsewhere weren't held up. That center gets 1.4 million calls a year. Any efficiency boost literally saves lives.
And the public didn't even notice the AI.
Nope. Completely invisible, hidden behind the familiar 911 digits. It's AI at civic scale. Essential, invisible, judged by outcomes, do ambulances arrive faster, not by flashy demos.
That's a powerful example. Okay, we've covered a ton. Before we wrap, maybe quickly touch on foundational research and pull those common threads together explicitly.
Good idea. On the research side, MIT's CAV-MAE Sync projects stood out, linking sight and sound like how toddlers learn.
How does it work?
It splits video into frames, audio into tiny snippets, then learns to align them, like contrasting sounds and images or reconstructing one from the other. So the thud sound gets perfectly matched to the video frame of the door slamming.
And it's efficient.
Very. Beats rivals with fewer examples on tasks like finding a video from a sound or improving lip sync. They plan to add text next for full multimodal LLMs. Shows the importance of that foundational work, often international collaborations too.
And the payoff is things like phones auto-dubbing home videos perfectly or AR glasses naming the bird you just heard.
Small tricks, big convenience exactly. Now let's list those common threads we saw weaving through almost everything this week.
Okay, thread 1.
Longer context windows. AI remembering more for longer. Claude 4's 7-hour code audit is the killer example.
Thread 2.
Multimodal reasoning. Understanding and working with text, images, audio, video, sensors all together. Google Flow, ByteDance Bagel, that 112 robot, MIT's research.
Thread 3.
Agent loops that don't lose state. AI doing complex multi-step tasks autonomously, remembering where it is. Anthropic's audit, Google Mariner, Microsoft Magentic, Future House, the 112 VA robot again.
And thread 4.
Interfaces that hide complexity. Putting all that power behind simple buttons or natural language, Google Flow, Stitch, Mariner, OpenAI CodeX, LavArt, the Copilot UI, even Baltimore's 911 system.
Seeing them listed like that, it really does connect the dots. These weren't just random announcements. They were all pushing similar boundaries.
Exactly. Reinforcing each other. 1 week really did rewrite expectations. Video learned sound design. LMs ran code for hours. Open source beat closed source on bugs. Robots folded towels. Headsets turned looking into learning. Congress debated rules. It was a lot.
It really was. Leaves you wondering, okay, what is next? Will we see a huge Bagel XL? Will Tesla ship Optimus on schedule? Will some open source team beat everyone on SWE-Bench next month?
All feels possible now, doesn't it? And that's the thing. The speed itself is the point, that relentless pace of advancement.
Which brings us to maybe a final thought for you, the listener, something to take away from all this. The source notes had a great suggestion. Keep experimenting.
Yeah, fold a half hour of play into every sprint, whether it's work or just personal projects.
The idea being, actually use this stuff. Pick
Right.
one chore this week, something tedious. Could AI help? Code review, thumbnail design, drafting an email, automating some clicks.
Try a tool. See if it saves you time. Document it. If it works, maybe share the trick. Then move on to the next thing. Because, as the note said, progress compounds.
And crucially, keep joy in the loop.
Right. The same AI that can mix music or explain science can also write a personalized bedtime story.
This frontier isn't just serious business. It rewards seriousness and play in equal measure.
And the people exploring both sides, finding the fun and harnessing the power, they're the ones who will write the next chapter. We hope you'll be one of them.